I was stunned, frankly, because the option was so apostolically non-functional that really it had an expulsive quality to it. So, I was somewhat amazed.
For the sisters, being very, pre-Vatican II in their outlook, they were quite isolated, and it's been a dramatic shift that they've had to undergo.
The response of our Catholic community here in Eastern Washington has been nothing but very positive. I think every person you talk to, oh, isn't it wonderful that, that they have come back to the Catholic Church.
Sisters of Mary, Mother of the Church are a group of sisters that have recently reunited in complete full union with the Catholic Church. Originally, they all came from another congregation that's a traditional congregation, but were not in full communion. That association or that community was formed in the late 60s, and their main idea was, in being formed, was to spread devotion and the message of Our Lady of Fatima, and I definitely wanted to be a part of that.
Well, it was actually Sister Mary Eucharista came down here, and she just called me up, and I was a little surprised to get a phone call from one of the sisters at the Mount at the time, because, a little bit of a separation between the church and the sisters up there. So, before I came into the picture, I think a lot of the sisters already had a fairly good idea of where they wanted to move in terms of, reconnecting with the church. I think they had a very, very good sense of who Pope Benedict was, and sort of maybe a resonance that they felt for him, and also that they had worked with some other people just trying to get their questions answered, some of the more technical aspects of the Sede Vacantis movement versus the Roman Catholic Church.
We have it as our objective to be traditional, religious within the church, and involved in the works of evangelization, including school, retreat work, youth groups, parish work, anything within the scope of that general idea that we can work with within the Spokane Diocese or in the Northwest, and maybe throughout the United States or throughout the world at some point. We belong specifically right now to the Diocese of Spokane, and if it hadn't been for Bishop Skylstad, of course, it wouldn't have happened. But as to the whole diocese, we've had so many invitations to come and be part of not only formation of retreats, but also we've been welcomed into parish groups, women's groups, youth groups, catechetical events. We've been welcomed to talk to the Sarah Club, the Knights of Columbus, the other great groups that have been in the church for so many years, and we felt humble gratitude that people even want to know our story, let alone make kind of a fuss over the fact that we've joined with the mainstream church, and we're just, there's really no way to describe the kind of welcome we have received.
I think for them that was a very significant moment of transition from Mount St. Michael's to rejoin the Catholic Church. It was a very, very significant moment. It took tremendous courage to make that decision. So from my standpoint, it was a courageous move, and for me personally, and I think for a lot of people, a very inspiring move. As they look to the transition back into the church, and as they look to the various ministries in which they will be involved, as they look indeed to the charism of their community that they are establishing, all of that takes a lot of discernment, a lot of courage, a lot of wisdom. So that's not an easy process. It's a process that involves a lot of discussion and prayerful reflection, prayerful discernment in the very significant decisions that will guide them well into the future.
Even with scholarships from a place like Gonzaga, it's still expensive because it's education across the board in different, ways. And so the key thing is They really do need that upfront funding to help them just with very basic needs, from food to their habits that they're wearing to ordinary living expenses, the gas that you put into the car, et cetera, during this period where they're putting things together and consolidating. People have been very generous so far, but they really need, I think, more additional help. Their minds and souls are really unabsorbed. They have done a tremendous amount of work to educate themselves already. And I could see right from the very beginning the huge potential, once, they have kind of caught up with a lot of things that have gone on in the church, to having a traditional order which could fulfill the needs of a lot of people who are, first of all, looking for vocations today and looking for a more traditional way of approaching it. I think they're a very apostolic order, but they also have a very contemplative side to them. So I would call them traditional contemplatives in action. And do I think there's a need for that? Absolutely there is a need for that. I think they're going to attract a lot of vocations, and I think hopefully they'll be a source of unity. So there's just a huge potential here. And obviously, as I said, they're a real delight, and their faith makes their joy that much more ebullient.
One child several weeks ago just really hit the nail on the head, and probably 4 or 5 years old, and I came around the corner and she just froze and looked, and she said, "It's another Mary." And she had obviously just seen another sister, and I remember her looking up at her dad, and she looked back at me and she said, "Where's Jesus?" And that's what it's about, is being Our Lady's hands at work and letting her work through us and leading people to Christ. And out of the mouth of a child, she got it.